In the previous episode, I sailed from St. Lucia to Martinique, where I spent 10 days, unfortunately 7 of them recovering from a stomach bug. Here I continued northwest to Dominica for a brief visit, having lost so many days in Martinique, and then on to Guadeloupe via the Saints. These tracks are from my Predict Wind tracker, and in addition to only showing position once an hour, some kind of GPS glitch led to the phantom zigzags and stars on the track.
It's 7 o'clock in the morning. I left Martinique at 1:30 a.m. and it has been a boisterous ride across.
With just 2/3 of the jib out, in winds I estimated above 20 knots, and waves on the beam, this was a pretty rough but enjoyable ride. The island of Dominica emerged from the sea haze ahead of us, something that was common in strong conditions like this. There were lots of red-footed boobies enjoying the strong winds. Apart from the first 3 hours in the lee of Mount Pelee, this was my first Caribbean inter-island crossing that did not require motor sailing, as we were now able to sail on a reach. Here's our I-Sailor track headed to the capital of Roseau on the southwest coast of Dominica. My anchorage off the north shore of Roseau was not attractive, with a busy coastal road in front of an industrial area. On the other hand, Dominica had the best customs and immigration system I encountered on my entire circumnavigation, as they not only used the efficient sail clear system, but also required only a visit to customs, where one was checked in and out at the same time for a 14-day window. There was a rather dilapidated museum near the harbour, and there I learnt some of the island's history. Having been transferred from France to Britain in 1763, the island was surveyed and divided into parishes and plots, all of which were sold, with the best taken by insiders. Here is a map of the parishes for the entire island, and then plots for the area of Roseau. That evening we had a dim yellow sunset as a huge plume of dust blown across the Atlantic from the Sahara Desert passed over the island, and after some rain that night, the golden dust on this auxiliary solar panel was gathered in a corner.
It's Tuesday morning. I'm headed up the coast because it's raining inland, not much point trying to go hike. But look at this, the wind is out of the west. I'm not quite sure what that's all about. Anyway, yeah, rained quite a lot last night. It's still raining up in the hills. This is a high-speed ferry. AIS says it's doing 26 knots. Coming from Guadeloupe, maybe going to Roseau, it's possible, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is just French to French, so all the way to Martinique. I saw a lot of these down Martinique way. They're very similar to the ones that are used in Tobago and Trinidad. Impressive.
At the other extreme were several tugs pulling barges doing just 3 knots.
I spent the day in this delightful little anchorage called Ane Watre, and man, it's small, and I don't want to hit these rocks. I went snorkeling along the edge here, but I have just been joined by a monster catamaran called Hugin. They took their really big heavy guy and put him up the mast to try to get their courtesy flag down. Apparently it jammed. Anyway, yeah, I think I'll spend the night here. Should be nice and quiet. I went for a walk up in the woods here. This guy is a monster house up on the hill here. It's growing all sorts of fruits in the valley. Very pretty, and we had some rain earlier. It looks like we might have some more tonight.
This anchorage was just south of a little village at the small bay at the mouth of a river, with the road circling inland across the river, and in the absence of much wind, Sea Change wandered around on the anchor. The next morning the catamaran was framed by a rainbow, and as I left, the mansion on the cliff top was obvious, as was the road cut.
Oh, it's Wednesday, the 4th of June already. Just moved up the coast a little bit, 4 or 5 miles to Portsmouth. It's a pretty spread out place all along the coast here. You can see inland, it's all full jungle pretty much. It's pretty impressive. Anyway, I caught a bus, microbus, minibus, across the mountains here to the east shore. Went to a chocolate factory place. Pretty cool.
It was a winding road through the lush green of this island with endless streetlights powered by solar and wind, albeit most of them appeared to be disabled. The chocolate factory was quite interesting, and the chocolate was good, but the best part was this enjoyable book written by an English woman who emigrated to this northeast coast of Dominica 100 years ago, eventually becoming a prominent politician there, and whose descendants started this little factory.
Oh, it's already Thursday, 5th of June. Time goes by. And I'm leaving Dominica. See these lovely tall mountains. If I was in better shape, I would have liked to have done a hike, but they also charge a ridiculous amount for them. Anyway, after an hour of motor sailing, we're out of the lee of the mountains and into the wind and the swell, which is fun. And there's no sargasso, so finally we can go back to the wind vane, the Pacific Wind Pilot. So nice, quiet, no energy, no wear and tear on the Tiller autopilot, which I have repaired very solidly, but is now compromised in terms of its waterproofness, hence the plastic bag. Now, once again, having motored out of the lee of Dominica, really nice trades here, straight out of the east, and so it's an easy, close reach across to the Saints, Guadeloupe. And man, I had been hoping there wouldn't be too much sargasso, and it's not overwhelming, but there's still a lot of it, and so I have to clear it off the wind vane rudder regularly. But as almost every trip so far through the Caribbean, you can do the whole trip 5 to 7 knots with just the jib.
On the way to Guadeloupe, I visited the cluster of small islands known as the Saints.
We're going around the windward side of the Saints. I go up around this point and then downwind around and into the town to check in. You can see Guadeloupe, the main island, in the background. Lovely day. It's been a great sail. Sargasso is quite thick in places here, and yeah, I've had to go to the Tiller autopilot to deal with it. Just too much for the wind vane, but here we are, going around the northern end here of the Saints, going into Terre Haute in there. I think that's the name, something like that. Oh, this is Terre de Haute, and the Saints looks like have some sort of roof code. It has to be red. Anyway, I'm going to go past all this mooring field, and I'm sure exactly where. Ane Watre, little bay that you can anchor in beyond here. Oh, it's certainly a very pretty place, these Saints, but all the protected anchorages, at least over here, are moorings only. And the one that I was in over there, Ane Watre, it was way too rolly. You can even see the monohull that was in front of me rolling badly there. And this one also beautiful volcanic rock here, crystalline basalt. But even this anchorage is all moorings. So I'm going to go around to this big island over here, go around to the other side of it. Hopefully there's a nice bay there for me. Well, I moved around to this absolutely lovely little bay called Ane Watre. Little tough for anchoring, the sand is not that deep, the anchor's not that buried. But, oh man, there used to be a huge dock here. It was to stretch way far out because large parts of it are underwater. I guess the swells from various hurricanes just wipe it out. It's a gorgeous home back here behind a pavilion. Lovely little place. And then I went for a walk up the road, which goes up the hill there. And there's a whole bunch of kids, a whole couple of school classes, a couple of teachers, and one guy's really good. He sits there at the end of the pier and he's in the water, he's treading water, and he has all the kids jump off the end of the pier one at a time, just off the side of the end of the pier. Very cool. Watches to make sure they swim okay back to shore. I was impressed. And on this end there's a couple of tourists, and here's a nice little shelter, little picnic table and shelter and a couple of benches underneath some palm trees. I mean, hey, doesn't get much better than that. And snorkeling on this edge was pretty good. Lots of sponges, fan corals, and some really unusual fish. And right around the corner is a village, and here's some of the fishermen's boats on moorings. Yeah, so it's 5:30. We're gonna have a very nice quiet night here. Might get a nice sunset too.
Here is our ice sailor track through the Saints, ending at this little bay on the western side of Terre de Basse Island. And this was the first, but not the last, Caribbean island I did not bother to officially check into.
Well, it's Friday the 6th, and we're crossing the passage from the Saints over here. Terre de Basse is this big island that we were anchored behind, and headed over to Guadeloupe.
Seemingly inevitably, we ran into more and more sargasso weed, which piled up on the rudder of the Pacific Wind Pilot wind vane, and every few minutes I would have to push it off with my boat hook until it got to be too annoying and I had to resort to the tiller autopilot yet again.
I'm sailing up the west coast of Guadeloupe, well, motor sailing, but we've got a nice westerly breeze here. So yeah, actually sailing. Look at that. Unusual. And we have the tiller pilot steering, which is just as well. There's a huge mat of sargasso here, rolled up on this side of the island. And we're going to go right through the middle of it. This would be no good with the wind pilot. It would just get jammed up on the rudder and then it would head up into the wind. But here we go. Got the engine running and we've got the sails pulling. We should have no trouble getting through. Look at that. Wow. That's thick. And a pop. It stills the surface as well. No ripples on the surface, just little waves, undulations. And you see the breezes. I mean, it's even got white caps out there. Quite surprising. This is a big mat of sargasso. Wow. This is the biggest I've seen. I guess it's collected on this side of the island where there's normally not much wind, but this westerly is going to blow it into shore. Wow, what a mess. Alright, well, we're nearly there. I don't think I could have sailed through this. I think with the wind relatively light, it would have been hard. Just as well we have an engine that works. This was a really unexpected westerly and a really nice motor sail. We're beating nicely here. And I mean, what a difference it makes, you know, doing 4 knots. Here we're doing 5.5 up to Pigeon Islands. I'm halfway up the west coast of Guadeloupe, and these little islands here called Pigeon Islands, and they're pretty good snorkeling. It was fun, went out there with the dinghy. Now we have a gorgeous sunset, maybe a little bit of the Sahara Desert dust left in the air. And yeah, just a few boats here. Most of the ones in the distance there are local boats. And a small town along the edge here. Yeah, pretty clouds. Not much else here. There's a couple more boats on the other side. It's going to be a very, very quiet, peaceful night. Lovely. These are the 2 Pigeon Islands, part of the Jacques Cousteau Marine Reserve here. Little one on the left, bigger one with a little bay in it on the right. They have a whole bunch of mooring balls for dinghies and visiting snorkeling boats and so on. And then the yellow markers in the middle are to say no propellers allowed in the bay because people are swimming, it's shallow, and the kayaks go in there. That's pretty impressive. People rent the kayaks and they come out of the village over here in the sun and paddle all the way across and back. And yesterday that was quite an effort because we had quite a strong westerly in the morning and then later an easterly, so the folks who came out in the morning and went back in the afternoon had to battle the wind both directions. Anyway, a lovely spot, nice quiet night. Big old green schooner there in the anchorage, and I'm headed off north to Deshaies, I guess it's pronounced, Deshaies, something like that, town up in the very far north where I can check out. I haven't decided exactly how to pronounce this, but Deshaies, I think, something like that, Deshaies. A small little town, but quite pretty and a nice bakery. But man, does the wind blow through here. My anchor has already dragged at least 30 feet. Now I'm just hoping it holds tonight. We'll have to see. Because if it doesn't hold, oh man, there's quite a few boats that I could take out on the way through here.
Once again, this French island had a marvelous bakery that I could not resist patronizing. The main attraction in Deshaies is this botanical garden, high up on the hills south of the town.
I'm in the Jardin Botanical Gardens here. It's a huge place and the parking lot is packed, but nobody walking the trail through it. Everybody's at the restaurants or feeding the goats or the fish. So I have it pretty much to myself. It's full of all the usual tropical things you would expect in a garden like this. Oh, there's a grackle. But every now and again there's a sign that says orchids up. What? Yep, there they are. Really pretty. Up at the top of the garden they have whatever this is, I'm not sure, yellow and red ones, and like in much of the rest of the garden there are lots of hummingbirds, although catching them on film is not going to be so easy. Yeah, here's one right underneath in the bushes here, but it's not going to show itself. Anyway, some of them were the crested hummingbirds that are unique to the Caribbean, which is kind of nice to see them again. And of course in the background, Caribbean Sea. Can't quite see down to where the boats are in the bay.
And here at the bottom is an Antillean crested hummingbird.
I was lucky enough to get a ride up with a kind guy who had been doing some unsuccessful fishing with his son. But yeah, the walk back down should not be a big deal. It's always a happy thing when you come around a corner and you see your boat where you left it at anchor. Awesome.
The anchor, in fact, held well in the face of strong easterlies off the island, but in the early morning the wind died and then turned light from the west, causing us to meander all over the place, as shown in detail on iSailor. It was now well into June, and I decided to speed up my trip through the Caribbean even more by ignoring the popular and often very expensive outer islands in favor of a day or two at each of several leeward islands on my way to Puerto Rico.